Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the session 8 of the Western Balkans Digital Summit. This time the topic will be cooperation between governments and industry in cybersecurity. At the very beginning, we will have another keynote speech. This time, I'm really proud to present a fellow business and organization consultant. He works with public organizations and private companies developing digital products. Recently, he joined Public Digital, a consulting firm specialized in digital strategy, where he leads the Latin American and Caribbean market. He served as a general director of e-government of the city of Buenos Aires and undersecretary of digital government at the presidency of Argentina. Apolitical listed him among the 20 most influential people in digital government in the world, and he also won a Webby Award in the health category. Ladies and gentlemen, from Argentina, Mr. Daniel Abadie.
Hello, I'm Dan Abadi from Public Digital. Today I'm going to speak about trust and security. In 2019, when I was the Undersecretary of Digital Government of Argentina, my team and I developed an app called My Argentina. That was the citizen dashboard with all the information and official documentations in their phones. Will be an app where the citizen only had to create their account and validate their identity, and so the government can push them all the information they had from government into their phones. We made our health section based on the opt-in process, where the users decide if they want to share or not share their health records. That allow us to show them and create them all the health records in the hospitals, but also their vaccine certifications. So in 2019, that wasn't a priority. The world is funny because this horrible pandemic struggle that is struggling us since 2020 became that vaccine certificate really relevant for our citizens and our country. All that process of health records in Argentina is based on the user trust, opting in and opting out, how to share their health records information through private and public organizations. I guess the challenges for the future for our citizens, but mostly for our governments, is trust and secure transactions through the internet. Governments need to advance in a policy framework that can consider security in their transactions and in their data, but also to create the trust between their organization and the citizens on how the data is being used, how the data of the citizens is being distributed through governments and through private organizations, that could create that trust between citizenship and government on the use of personal data. So my challenges for the future for this panel will be how you will secure citizens' data through transactions to deliver efficient digital services. Have a good Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay, now we're going to follow the panel, which title is Cooperation between governments and industry in the area of cybersecurity, as I already said. But this time, our guide, our Virgil, guiding us through this hell of complex set of issues, will be a really competent one. He comes from Munich, and we have already presented his company, Giesecke de Rindt, Security Technologies, 11,600 employees, 33 different countries. But this time, he's nothing less than a corporate information security officer and a group vice president there. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thorsten Delbruck.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the kind introduction, and let's head over to the panel. I have a list here, so please excuse me if I'm not looking at the camera directly at all times, because I will be introducing the panel members to you right now. And this is something that's always difficult if you have such a fantastic, probably the greatest panel, when you have to make a decision in which order to introduce everybody. So what I'm going to do is we're going to introduce the female members first in alphabetical order and then introduce the rest of us. It's a very diverse panel, which is fantastic. And let me start with Franziska Klopfer. She's a project coordinator at the Geneva Center for Democratic Control of Armed Forces. We also have, and if you have seen me typing while the introduction was going on, I was not doing emails at that time. I was making some last minute changes to my notes because we had Maria Popovic from the Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunication of Serbia join very last minute. So she's stepping in for somebody else who couldn't make it, unfortunately. We have Solca Kovachevska, State Advisor for Information Systems and Technologies in the Ministry of Information Society and Administration in North Macedonia. Vilma Tomko, the General Director from the National Authority for Electronic Certification and Cybersecurity in Albania. And we have, continuing, Dijan Abazovic, the advisor to the Prime Minister for the government of Montenegro. We have Ines Haracic, the director from Results Consulting in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we have Skandar Mabrok, although I need to have a look at my participant list. Is Skandar here? Give me a sign. Wave into the camera, say hi. Maybe he'll join us a little later. Skandar is from the Directorate General. Why did the host mute me? From content technology from the European Commission. So with this, thank you very much for joining everybody. And the first question, especially after this great keynote speech and this very, very broad overview that we have, is it's always difficult to find an entry here. We'll briefly go around the table, and in that order, I'll call you out. In that order, please say 2 or 3 words or sentences rather. What drives you, what interests you. Keep it really short because we have a ton of questions to discuss, and I'd rather try and keep this a very, very lively discussions with all the topics that we want to discuss in this interesting field. Franziska, please.
Thank you very much, Torsten, and thank you very much to the organizers for this, inviting me to this really interesting event. I followed the discussions already for the past 2 days, and also thank you very much to the keynote speaker who gave us really a number of interesting points to think about. But when I was listening to the discussions in the past 2 days, there's obviously a lot of talk about digitalization and how we really live in an age of opportunity, because digitalization can really help us multiply communication exchanges and therefore also for us working with governments or for governments, improve state services. I work for DCAF, the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, and we are obviously interested in good governance in the security sector. And we see that digitalization has really helped improve the work of, for example, ministries of interiors in the way they communicate and work with and provide services to their citizens. But I also think we are really terribly behind in our efforts to ensure that these services stay safe. For example, this week there was news about a major attack. Data was compromised in the municipal services of the city of Montreux, it's a city in Switzerland, not far from here, from Geneva. I mean, this example shows that state structures, even at the municipal level, even at the smallest level, so to say, are increasingly becoming targets because they have data, and data is very valuable, but also because there are people who are interested in disrupting, obviously, the work of state services. So it's important that, for us all to really realize that cybersecurity is a new frontier in security policy, and something that both bigger and smaller countries are still really struggling with. We need to find the responses, and this is the work that I and my colleagues are doing at DCAF. We are working a lot with the stakeholders in the Western Balkans, both state and non-state, to try to improve the capacities of cybersecurity experts, but also the governance framework that you need to really make cybersecurity more effective. So ultimately, I think what is important, what kind of the message that I want to bring across in this short introduction, is that it's very important whenever you talk about cybersecurity that right from the start you acknowledge that cybersecurity costs efforts and investments, and that this requires really states to put cybersecurity as a priority in their national security and in their defense policies. There has to be a real assessment of the threats, and the needs that are identified have to be costed and budgeted. There has to be political will to then pay for that and to implement that, to create the capacities, provide the equipment, and the policy framework. The same goes for private citizens or private enterprises. They also have to better learn how to better protect themselves in this new environment. Also, countries all over Europe have to include cybersecurity in their foreign policy. A big project that we're implementing at the moment, a 3-year project for the Western Balkans, is supported by the UK, the United Kingdom government. They have put cybersecurity as one of their priorities in their foreign development policy, as do other countries as well. And this is one example. But it's really
let me stop you there. This is really was supposed to be really only like 2 minutes. There will be plenty.
So that was my last point. I'm actually finished. So my point was the importance of seeing cybersecurity as an issue of foreign policy, national defense and defense policy, and to look at it at all levels of government. So thank you very much, Thorsten.
Thank you very much. I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just we have 1 hour.
No problem.
Which should be plenty. So we will be bottoming out all of these details. Maria, please. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Just a second. Hello, I am today instead of Mr. Sava Savic. It is the last minute exchange. I think that he will be there tomorrow. I am on behalf of Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunication from Serbia. I'm working in sector for cybersecurity, and I am inspector for IT security and trust services. We are working on legal stuff, regulations. We have 2 laws: information law, information security law, and law for electronic documents and trust services. And our goal is to communicate between, we are supervisory body, and our goal to communicate between governmental offices and non-governmental organization. And we have, Francisca knows, our Petnica group, now it is called, just a second, now is Cybersecurity Network Foundation. And I will stop now, and later I will listen your question and give the answers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, especially on joining on such a short notice. And I know it must have been a very, very short notice for you.
Yes, very, very.
Which is always difficult. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Soca, over to you, please.
And hello. Thank you, Thorsten, and thank you, Francisca, for the introductions, for the good introduction. So I don't have to do it. So I will just skip directly to what motivates me personally in cybersecurity. It is that cybersecurity is so broad that one can find lots of areas of professional interest as well as pet projects. So governments maintain different tailor-made systems, and some of those systems are already legacy systems. Maintaining the security aspects of those systems until such time that they are successfully migrated to on a cutting edge technology, that will be legacy in a few years is a personal challenge to me. So my current focus is on cybersecurity of critical infrastructure. And in that regard, I hope that to have an opportunity to briefly present the program a bit later. So now I will just.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And moving on directly to Vilma.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here with you. We know each other for a long period now, and we are happy to share time after time our development, our achievements. And right now, I can say that after being 8 years in cybersecurity domain, I can say something for this summit. I go short in order to continue later on. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And we're moving on to Dejan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to be the panelist on this wonderful panel, and I hope that we will have something what will be very interesting for our audience. Yes, I don't have any doubt because Torsten know how to do that. Yes, as you know, from the December of the last year, we have a new government in Montenegro, and since then I'm the advisor to the Prime Minister for the information technologies and the cybersecurity. And we start with, I can say something what will be the new platform to the development of the digital transformation and the cybersecurity in Montenegro. Since then, we made some activities and some teams to build a new strategies and build a new way for the Montenegro in this area, what is very important. And my colleagues today said how it is important to do that in the public sector, and especially how it is important to be organized in the government and where we establishing all the cybersecurity and the others compatible politics for all of this area. So I hope that I will present what we doing, what we did, and how it will have the impact on our cyber security future in Montenegro. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. And directly moving on to Ines. I've seen you before. Probably need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Torsten. Hi, everybody. I'm also very excited to be here with you today, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk about something that I feel very passionate about, and this is the cooperation of governments and private sector in the fields of cybersecurity. My personal background started with the public sector many years ago, and some years ago I founded my own company, and now have an excellent perspective from the private sector and from the industry view. So I'll be happy to share my thoughts and discuss these very important issues for all the governments in the Western Balkans about transfer of responsibility and cooperation with industry and private sector.
Thank you very much. And we're doing very good on time. Great. Last but not least, we have Skanda. I can see you. You can unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, very nice to be here. I'm Skanda Mabrouk. I work in the European Commission. Well, the Commission, as you know, is quite big. It's quite complicated. So I'm in the unit on cybersecurity, capacity building, and technology. So I don't deal directly with new legislation or with cybercrime, but really with building up capacity in Europe and beyond. In particular, I'm the person responsible for skills and for international cooperation with third countries. So on the Western Balkans, I'm one of the people evaluating a new project, which will be assessing the needs in different countries and the best ways to work together, and then hopefully at the end of next year, a new action done by the EU. And later I'll tell you a bit more about that.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And with this, I have to have a look at my written notes. So it's, I can almost feel how we're getting into that discussion, and you can probably see that as well when everybody was doing the introduction. The difficult or challenging part is to get this started and get this going. Now, in this information space, we tend to look at traditionally, regardless of whatever we do, people, processes, technologies. And I want to start with people. And that's a question for several of you. We talked about it before. I would really like to start with the people, because regardless of what we talk about later on in the due course of this panel, we will have to have the people to make this happen. So I'm going to ask the several people, but starting maybe with Vilma. Cybersecurity skills, general awareness. I understand you've been running awareness programs and awareness and education programs. What are key points that you would like to share in this environment? Something that we can take away from problems.
It is true, because when we talk for cybersecurity, it's not issue only of the technicians. All of us has to navigate in a secure environment. So despite the work of the technician, how to secure the system, the information, about the, let's say, regulators' environment, how to regulate all this domain, there is another very important topics, this of the making people aware how to be protected when they are online. And we are focused more on this, being small countries and with a very limited budget, when we are not able to invest a lot in the cybersecurity technical capacities. We are trying to do in another way, investing more in the human resource capacity building. So during all these years, and let's say that the pandemic era has done something good for us. It's not only the bad things, but it's also good, because moving in a very short time, everyone in an online environment make us, how to say, aware that we need to focus on the people. So we produce in a very limited time a lot of materials and documents, and distributed them to different categories of people. Let's say we distributed some regulars, how to stay safe online for the employees, for the employer, for the children, for the rest of the society, for the people, and also for them who make online transactions, how to be secure when they use these online tools, etc., etc. And not only this, we continue with this online meeting. We prepare a lot of workshops to raise capacities of our peoples, and also to organize to different levels of students and children's at the schools, different activities. So this is a very broad, let's say, initiative that we have undertaken as the National Authority for Electronic Certification and Cybersecurity, but with the help of our partners, supporters, international collaboration like ITU, UNICEF, DCAF as well, etc. So this is a process, and as we see, it will never end, because the people need continuously to be aware on the way how they have to use the tools to be online during all the time. Another thing is that this pandemic period, from another side, has been, let's say, a paradise for the hackers. So our next focus has been on the monitoring of the networks about the malicious, the threats, etc., in order to reduce such negative impacts at the telecommunication networks, which will have direct negative impact to our critical and important infrastructure. So this has been the two biggest issues that we are following during this process. First is continuous awareness campaign and the capacity building on the other side, and the rest is monitoring and auditing. So we are focusing in these two directions during this period.
That's a fantastic summary. Thank you very much. I would like to end to extend that question to Ines, because when we talked about it, you said awareness is something that you see in your consulting role on the industry side. You see that as well. Now, Wilma just said that the pandemic, as terrible as it has been, might have had that positive effect of bringing attention to the people, how important it is to have all these online processes. Is that something that you also see in your consulting role, or generally in partners that you work with?
Exactly. Wilma has given us a great insight of the activities aimed towards the general public. However, I have a bit different experience here, of course, very successful, and it's a positive story. At the very start of COVID pandemic, in the very beginnings, together with my colleagues from government IT service departments and supported by the OSCE mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I took part in a series of training events and online webinars and trainings aimed at the public service employees, aimed towards IT security staff of public institutions and so on all levels of government in Bosnia and Herzegovina, from the municipal level, very low local level, up to the state level, even towards the Ministry of Defense. The courses were quite simple. They have just explained what are the challenges and what are the mitigation measures of secure work from home, from the remote location, and as well of securing the official and the data which belongs to our institutions or organizations within our new environment and within the new situation. And the response was overwhelming. Fantastic results, really. All the online video conferencing platforms that we used were always full in the capacity, and we had people waiting in queues. We even had moderators asking few people from the same organizations to gather around one computer in one office so we can let in their colleagues from another institution. And it was really fantastic. The questions that we were receiving from the public service employees were really educated, good questions, which showcased that actually they understood what the dangers of working from home, what there can be dangers from to the data and information that they have, and which can be intercepted or misused against them or their organization. So actually we had an excellent success with this line of webinars and campaigns. And it's very interesting that the such topics such as cybersecurity, which is not a really very interesting topic just for general public or for general employees. I expected to have more IT people there. I had more network administrators, IT security, maybe even managers, but we actually had a real employees from the trenches who really participated and who really had this information and didn't know how to protect it and what would be the measures. And they wanted to know more about this. So this is, let's say, the awareness campaign that started, of course, as an initiative of civil service agencies, also from the Organization of Cooperation and Security in Europe, OSCE, but actually it has pushed the discussions towards something which were much more towards something which is a request of the employees towards more awareness and building the awareness towards their own excellence.
couldn't see who was talking there, but somebody probably needs to mute their microphone. All right. Sorry, Ines.
No problem. It happens. So what an interesting fact is that at the same time, together with our corporate partners, with leading global corporations, which provide awareness trainings to institutions and other corporations, we have enabled on the LMS portals on the web portals of the public service agencies, we have enabled a series of webinars which were, let's say, corporate made, also localized in local language. But those type of short videos of awareness campaigns did not have as much a success as we had in our own webinars. So this maybe drove us to a conclusion that the state, the government employees are more inclined to the programs which are sponsored and organized directly by the governments or by the public sector, rather than towards the awareness campaigns that are sponsored or prepared or organized, implemented by, let's say, global corporations. This is maybe because the trust in local is larger than the trust in global.
Yeah. That's very good input and a very good insight. It's my takeaway is that we want to use that momentum that we've gained in a very short period at the beginning of the pandemic, and carry that on, carry that forward, so that we keep people's attention, and that we keep doing all these awareness campaigns, and that we keep people's awareness on a very high level, because it is so important to have the people with us. So thank you for that. Moving on from roughly people to, don't take it verbally, processes, but if we look at the legal space, so this is something if you look at laws in general, this is something that's a relatively young field compared to other fields that our legal colleagues have been working on. And this is that's a question that I'd like to start with Dejan, for example, is what are the important aspects in cyber legislation that we're seeing today, or that we could be doing in the future to support this collaboration, not just in the awareness sector like we just talked about, but to extend it to other areas, supply chain, the general collaboration in that interface between governments, societies, companies. Is there something that you, from your experience, would recommend to take into consideration when creating cybersecurity laws?
Yes, of course. I fully agree. It is very important to do that, and I hope that we will succeed in the next planned activities to do that with our laws and bylaws, which we're planning to develop in Montenegro. I will just have to say that since our independence, Montenegro has enacted several laws and bylaws that have established mechanism and laid the foundation for a safer cyber environment and the protection of the critical infrastructure. The organizational structure in the field of the cybersecurity has been defined, the national security strategy, the defense strategy of Montenegro, and the two cybersecurity strategy for the periods of 2013 until 2021. Also, here, there is a cybersecurity strategy of the Army of Montenegro, and we formed the national team for response to the computer security incidents in the cyberspace of Montenegro, which became the member of the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams established at the Organization Ministry of Defense until for cyber defense and response to computer incidents. And also, I have to add that we are now in situation to creating a new strategy for the period 2022 until the 2025, the end of the 2025. And these days we are in that process, and we work very hardly because that new strategy with the new action plans has to become active from the very beginning of the next year. That's why we are preparing actively, because as you know, there is no any kind of the security without finance and without a budget, and we have to prepare the budget for the next year in accordance with that strategy. Where is the biggest problem which I see? It is the broad education of the people, which we need to do. With you talk about the awareness, how much it is important, and it is. I had to underline the especially importance of the that awareness in the public sector, because the data we have everywhere. The data are in the computers, in electronic form. The data are on the paper. The data also are in our head, because every day when I go out from my office, I am bringing with me my some data. Some of them are confidential, and that's why I have to be aware about possibility to present that data to someone or somebody who can do something with that data what is not acceptable for our government. So I hope in the next period we will have something what will organizationally take some advantage for us when we talking about cybersecurity, and especially that organization form will understand one or something what we calling national coordination center or cybersecurity center. Which will coordinate all the activities in Montenegro, in the different sector, public sector, economic sector, educational sector, and etc. In that way, we need to take care parallelly with more activities. One of that activities, as you said, are laws and bylaws which we have to establish and upgrade for this area. The other activities is organization, as I said. The third activities can be infrastructure. Fourth activities will be the services and the different tools which we will establish to stop the data leakage. Also, we need to take care about human resources, about their education, about this different awareness and different programs which we need, which we have in publics also, as we need to have in for the cybersecurity specialist. So
yeah, did you? Sorry to interrupt you there. Did you see that we had a visitor? We had a black cat as a sign here for those of you who've seen the Matrix. A glitch in the Matrix. They changed something. Skander is nodding already. Thank you, Dejan. That's.
Yes.
I needed to jump in there because you can open up such a wide area that you can talk about, that we probably need to narrow it down a bit. And Skander, I know that the NIS directive is very close to your heart. Now, this is a piece of EU legislation, but do you want to give us a very brief overview? Is there something in it that you recommend to highlight for critical infrastructures for governments in general?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the NIS directive is something we have just been revising. So it's already been adopted in the EU, and now it's getting broadened to new sectors, because it identifies, it requires EU member states to identify operators of essential services, who, if they would be, let's say, a victim of a cyber attack, which really have an impact on the national security of the country or the economy as a whole. And that's why they get special obligations to report things to national authorities, so that in case of a breach, they can react quickly. Yeah, we're actually, as you say, it's close to my heart, because I think it's a really good system to adopt, not just for EU countries, but even abroad, because it's well set up. So it says member states have to improve their cybersecurity capabilities by having a national CERT, as we call it, so a computer emergency response team, who are able, much better than us actually, to really respond to a dangerous situation in the moment. And they need to have a national authority which checks whether this information is actually being shared from the operators of essential services with the CERTs. And of course, critical infrastructure and critical information infrastructure is very often a part of these operators. Then on the EU level, we have the NIS cooperation group, which is more on the strategic level, where member states are represented. And on the operational level, we have the network of CSERTs, so of these emergency response teams, or in this case, it's a bit broader than that. And also in both of those, ENISA, so our cybersecurity agency in Athens, and the Commission are involved. So I have colleagues following this very closely. Yeah, in the projects we are doing also with countries in the Western Balkans, we've been seeing that this is a very useful approach to also adopt at that point, especially because there are some candidate countries. So then their kind of governance structure would already be aligned with the EU acquis. And even if that's not the case, even with, let's say, non-candidate countries or those which are further away, we see that this EU model of dealing with things both on the industry side as well as on the government side, and really cooperating a lot, that this is getting a lot of traction, because yeah, without having trust and sharing important information, it's very hard to let's say beat cyber attacks. So that's maybe in a nutshell the NIS directive. And yeah, if there's any question about what is new or what could be specifically more relevant for you, then let me know.
That's very good input. Thank you. And for the audience, for everybody who's listening, if you have written down NIS directive, that's something to underline twice and look up. I think the NIS directive is a great takeaway for pretty much every society, every company to look at, even if you don't introduce it formally line by line, but it covers a very broad area. Sosa, when we talked before the panel, you mentioned a project that you are working on, which is also a global or an international cooperation. And I think it works very well in combination with looking at what others do and how we can introduce international frameworks. Is that something that you could add to the NIS directive that Skander mentioned?
Yes, thank you, Torsten. I'd like to, this is regarding the cyber risk preparedness program in North Macedonia. So this is a program funded by USAID, delivered by a technical team based in the US and the UK, and supported locally by my ministry, Ministry of Information Society and Administration, and the National CERT team. So this cyber risk preparedness program is part of a larger 3-year project of development of regional energy markets funded by USAID. So the program effectively prioritized and engaged with 3 sectors of the country's critical infrastructure. These are the energy, ICT, and finance sectors. So the successful delivery of this program required engagement from the key ministries and critical infrastructure operators from both the public and the private sector. So this program has 5 key outputs. So first is development of a country-specific definition and classification framework for critical infrastructure. Second is sector-specific risk, cyber risk and gap analysis. The third is technical assistance for implementation of information sharing network. So this program decided to build this information sharing network on the existing network already established by the National Search Team. And we have the capacity building program to build sustainable and enduring national capabilities. And the last one of the outputs is coordination of the stakeholders. So we could build enduring relationships and raise awareness of the critical infrastructure. So as part of this program, a governance structure, this is a critical infrastructure cybersecurity work group, was established and chaired by the Ministry of Information Society and Administration. So we will have the third iteration, the third meeting of the group, of this working group on Thursday. And targeted risk assessment, the workshops and capacity building trainings were delivered in person by experts in the specific sectors. So this program is very short and it's ending by the end of 2021, but it has already proven to be very hands-on and very effective. So I tried to be brief here. If there are any more questions, I am available in the platform later.
That sounds fantastic, and thanks for the overview. Now, joining on a very short notice, Maria, you work for a ministry that's by all means considered critical infrastructure. So what are your key focus areas or key aspects that you would like to share where you say this is something that we need to work on together, this is something that we can use help with from the industry, or this is an area where we can even share information and make information public based on the experiences that we've had so far?
I will say about our law on information security. Our legal team wrote that law according to NIS directive. This law was adopted on 2016, and latest updates were in 2019. And we have also the strategy in August 2021, Information Society and Information Security Strategy was adopted. And public-private partnership is recognized as one of the strategic goals in cybersecurity area. In this strategy, we covered the period from 2021 to 2026. And one of the main goals, except this public-private partnership, is education of people, ordinary people, common people that they don't have any experience in cybersecurity and in application, and they are not aware of threats that on internet cyberspace and etc. We also have this Petnica, it was Petnica group, and now this Petnica group transformed into a Cybersecurity Network Foundation. And this foundation concluded cooperation agreement with our ministry because we are a supervisory body in cybersecurity. We also have national CERT, and national CERT coordinates special CERTs, and we have very good cooperation with special CERTs, which mainly operate within private companies and non-governmental organizations. And in April 2021, National CERT organized a meeting with the representatives of Special CERT in Serbia. They represented their activities in previous period. And we also have challenges regarding pandemic. We have phishing attacks, more phishing attacks than usually. And we are working constantly on the raising awareness of people. But like any other countries in Western Balkan, we don't have funds. We have a shortage in people, in educated people. And we are working on, we had one project with NALED. This is non-governmental organization, National CERT, and our ministry also had role in that project. And we had raising awareness program for local authorities, for cities in Serbia, for people who are working for authorities in the cities.
All right, thank you. That's like a really broad working area. Franziska, you mentioned a couple of things during the introduction that ties very closely to what Maria just said. Is there something based on your experience where you would highlight like a specific benefit of cooperation or using standards in that field?
So you mean cooperation between private and
Yes.
public sector?
Yes.
Yes. No. Just to exactly follow on what Maria has said, and also the others. I think we have also worked a lot on both these issues of public awareness raising and the cooperation between public and private actors in cybersecurity. And as Maria already mentioned, we had the honor of supporting this initiative, this really bottom-up initiative in Serbia, where public and private cybersecurity experts are coming together and have now set up a foundation, the Cybersecurity Network Foundation. I think as a takeaway, this is a very good example of the experts themselves, the people involved in cybersecurity coming together, seeing the benefit of working together on a number of issues. And that's the kind of the nice thing about this platform, about this network, is that they can really work on many issues, including on public awareness raising. And there, just to maybe follow on also to echo what others have already said, we've also worked a lot in the region on public awareness raising, working with national certs in particular, who are active in this and have a mandate for especially to raise the awareness of the general public in most of the countries in the region. And I think the one what I would reiterate is the importance of having the willingness of the private and public to come together, which is not a given. And as I said, and the example from Serbia shows, if you provide a platform for people to get to know each other and see the benefit that, especially in this area of awareness raising, we can work together. That's a very important first step, because it is also about trust. And the other is having the right methodology and tools, as it was mentioned, that having material that is really targeted towards, as Enes has said, whichever stakeholder group that you want to raise the awareness of. But I think the final thing I wanted to say is that if you talk about awareness raising, whether it's now organized as a cooperation between public and private, or it's just organized by, for example, public state institution, it's important to have long-term capacity there as well, to have the capacity to plan communications, to identify the stakeholders and their needs, and to move beyond the very important but initial one-off events, and to regularly engage with the different stakeholder groups.
Fantastic, and you mentioned a couple of things that make it very easy for me to move on in the timeline, because with awareness and regulations and laws, we are in that preparation phase. So all we do in that space is around hoping that that nothing goes wrong. And maybe I can share a brief anecdote with everybody, because I did my final notes, my moderator notes, and I have a couple of questions. That's why I'm always looking slightly to the sides. That's where my notes are. And this morning, I sent this final note to the organizer and said, just in case something goes wrong, here's the speaker note so somebody can step in. And I think he found that very alarming. It's like, are you planning not to join? And I'm like, no. I'm a security guy. We always hope for the best and we plan for the worst. So that's why I sent out the notes. But if something goes wrong or if something happens, we all hope to have a cert to help us pick up the pieces and get back on our feet as fast as possible. This is something I know that probably a lot of you can speak to it. I'll maybe ask Vilma first. What role does a cyber security cert play, and what are good connection points between different certs, between maybe even government certs, industry certs? What could be an approach to bring them together, or what needs to happen so that different certs work together? You're still on mute, Wilma.
Good question for me, because maybe fortunately the authority is also act as a national cert in the country, and we have built it as a coordinator and organizer to other sectoral cert, including also the government cert. So we are focused on our everyday job to keep other certs in alert all the time. What we do? We organize training, workshop, activities like cyber drills by ourselves or with support of other actors. In the case, I have to mention that we use these partnerships between public and private to organize these activities. And this is one way of our everyday jobs in order to make all sectoral cert being in alert, being in contact with cases that can happen to other homologs, other certs, etc. Building a system for information sharing is another thing that has helped our communication with sectoral cert. It has been very difficult. You cannot imagine how to say, communicative are this kind of experts. The cybersecurity experts are those that it's very difficult to make them communicate with each other. So what we have think is just to put this information sharing platform, and they put something, some document, some awareness material, something that they have read somewhere, not something that has happened to them. So being friendly with each other, after a certain month, we saw that they begin to talk for their things. So they begin to share something that has happened to their critical infrastructure. It is not too much. There are little things, but we hope that this communication continue to increase in the future. And this is one thing. The rest, as I mentioned in the beginning, is the role of national cert to monitor and to audit this critical or this sectoral certs in the way how they implement critical or minimum requirements for protection of their network. So we have put as obligatory the minimum requirement taken from the standard ISO 27001. So this is a regular process to them in order to make them, how to say,
be more open in their collaboration, maybe?
Not only open, but to make them conscious about the importance of implementing and doing all the things that are included in such standards. And this is a continuous process, and even that we have very few people, we are trying to do our best. We saw that there is increased the interest of this sectoral cert to go toward the certification, to increase the level of capacity building on their staffs, to invest in their training, in their certification. And also we have seen during our audits, we have seen that there is an increase in the investment in the cybersecurity domain. As we see, every company, every institution invests in IT infrastructure, but previously there is done nothing in the cybersecurity to secure that such system and such networks. This last year, we saw an increase in the cybersecurity investment. And what is more important, it has become part of the implementation of a project, IT project. So they cannot do implementation of an IT project without considering security elements in this project. I can say a lot of things in this, but what is more important is networking and sharing information and knowledge between each other. And we are increasing this networking every year by putting this obligatory as a decision approved by the Council of Ministers. So every year we increase the number of critical and important infrastructure which are under our let's say mandate.
Yeah, and that is great. And if I could choose only one thing from what you just said, it's information sharing. And this is not a regional difficulty. It's always difficult for people, for companies, for organizations, for teams to talk about events where things didn't go as planned. So I don't know if that's reassuring, not just for the panel, but for everybody watching. It's also difficult to talk to other companies in Munich. It's difficult to talk to other companies in Germany. It's always difficult to talk about incidents where things didn't go very well. But it's very important. For us, it's the only way to learn, because we know that attackers do share information. They perfectly know what worked and what didn't work. And if they find an attack scenario that works, this information will be spreaded and they will continue to use it. And it's our best defense to share this information on the defender side as well. Since this is around CERT and information sharing, such an important subject, I would like to extend that to Enes, because you've been working in such projects on the industry and on the consulting side. What are your impressions? Did you see efforts that were particularly successful, or did you see ideas that were tried and failed? Is there something in that space that you can share with us?
Thank you. This is an excellent question, and I can only continue on what Vilma was previously saying. First of all, the intensity of cooperation and collaboration depend on certain trust platforms, depends on the number on the quality and the quantity of information being shared on those platforms. This is a general rule, of course. Well, here in Bosnia, based on what Petnica Group mentioned by Maria and Francisca was doing in Serbia, we have made an unofficial group of cybersecurity experts from academia, private sector, financial sector, of course, from all government levels, and under the supervision and support of we have formed a group called Neretva Group. this group recently has had the trial of cyber threat intelligence platform for the exchange of indicators of compromise, for the exchange of relevant cybersecurity data and incident data, and among the members of Neretva group. And this was just under the evaluation, and we continue that it might also grow into something which is close to some type of ISAC. But here I can extend the invitation to all the distinguished panelists here who come from their own backgrounds and countries to join the forces and share the sharing platform for the cyber threat intelligence sharing. Why? Because there is a common interest. The cybersecurity threats are transnational. They are global and transnational. So the mitigation and response to those type of threats should also be transnational, or in this case, regional. And since all the countries of Western Balkans are quite small countries, it's very difficult to, as Vilma said, to reach this critical mass of information. So those type of sharing platforms will become interesting for one side, for those who share, on the other side for those who read and ingest this information. So maybe if we would create or have more stakeholders participating, not only from one country but also from the entire Western Balkans regions, maybe we can get this critical mass and start talking about this sharing threat information and threat intelligence indicators of compromise and so on among ourselves, and then reach this critical mass for the benefit of all stakeholders and participants.
That's thank you very much for that statement. And it's something that I wholeheartedly agree with. The internet, by its very definition and its origins, is not a national thing. It's not something that you can look at and try and solve problems with territorial aspects. It's where everybody's trying that. Like we are trying that as well in Germany, and it doesn't work. It only works if we all collaborate in this together. Being a little conscious of time and keeping an eye on the time, I've got to ask the organizer team, are there any questions that we can take from the audience? I'm keeping an eye on the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat, but is there something that maybe you can give us a sign or just talk to us if there are any questions that you would like us to take from the audience? Everybody's nervous because nobody knows who's going to answer this question. I'll take that as a no. And we have a little over 10 minutes left, but a lot of areas to be discussed still. So we're just going to continue now, but there's one thing that kind of immediately comes to mind, and I'll make this an open question, and maybe you can just really literally raise your hand if you want to take that. There is this one keyword that we hear all over the world, really, in the past couple of years: digital sovereignty. The struggle for countries to be independent of other economies, of other suppliers, of vendors. They just want to be self-sustainable. Now, this is not necessarily intuitive when defending against organized crime groups, transnational organizations that attack countries, companies, individuals, entire societies. What's your take on this? There is not a specific question in it, but how does that play into the strategy of setting up a secure environment in a collaborative fashion between governments and the industry? Anybody with very distinct thoughts about this?
Okay,
Yes.
let me try. I mean, this is my personal opinion. This is not an opinion of my country or my minister or my employer. But I don't believe this digital sovereignty is possible on a country level, nor desirable. at least not for countries that are small in size like ours. So in my understanding, this should be on individual level. So the digital sovereignty should be granted to an individual, and the individual should have control of his or her data, as opposed to governments and companies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And looking at Dijon, you mentioned that you've been working on the strategy 2025. So on a longer term, really, we almost look at it in cat years. So you have to multiply it by 7 on the internet. And I don't say that because of your cat salsa. So what's your take on it? Like, do you have these? Is that something that you keep in the back of your mind when you design these long-term strategies?
Yes, it's a really interesting question, and it is something what is our how can I say, most important things what we taking care about when we trying to build this strategy. Maybe it's necessary now at the end of to say what we learned from the previous strategy and what is the platform for the building of the new strategy. I will just emphasize a few things because we don't have more times to talk about that. First of them is monitoring of the implementation of the strategy, and complying action plans must be improved in order to enable timely identification of obstacles. Also, the evaluation of the strategy should be realized not only at the end of its life cycle, but also during its implementation. The strategy and action plans too should contain a rough estimate of the necessary financial resources for the implementation of the planned activities and achievement of the set strategy goals. Also, the key problems, I have to say, in achieving the set goals of the previous strategy were of financial nature, insufficient allocation of funds of the component departments for the strengthening the capacity for the cyber defense through strengthening the operational human and technical resource was recorded. And one more I would like to emphasize, and it is especially for the public sector in the government, especially interministerial cooperation should be further enhanced through the networking and continuous training of the official dealing with the cybersecurity issues. It's just something what I think, and I'm trying to put in mind of the everybody of the remember of the working group when we talking about this strategy. And also we prepared our strategic goals and every strategic goals has his operational goals, but I don't have a time now to talk about that. I hope the next time we will have more time, but it is something what is most important, and how can we be prepared for the everything what is expect us in the future.
Yeah, thank you. And preparedness is a keyword that's also on my list, and I'm virtually looking at Skander. You mentioned the you mentioned the NIST directive, but is there we haven't talked about cyber resilience. So is there something in that space to take it even further out, something that we can integrate into our strategies, into our collaboration strategies on the subject of resilience, as a very short statement before we wrap it up in the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, definitely. So cyber preparedness, of course, as you say, is something to focus on, because you don't know what might happen and you need to be prepared in case something happens. We do that through all the strengthened requirements we have in the new NIST directive, which you can find more information about. But also we have what we call the blueprint, which is about incident response management. in case of a crisis. So then there are national incident response plans, but of course, because national is not enough, there is cooperation on the European network on CSIRT level, so again, operational and political level. And then we have the crisis response management of our external action service, which is a diplomatic service of the European Union, which also works, of course, with Western Balkans countries. So that's the blueprint which we have had active for the last few years. And now the EU is working on a new joint cyber unit where member states pool their capabilities for preparedness. For the rest, of course, preparedness, we're also investing a lot in skills, but these are more, let's say, the most concrete, urgent ways of being prepared for a major like ransomware attack or an attack on critical infrastructure. And if you're interested, I would encourage you, because there's not so much time left, to check out the Commission website, which is quite up to date now again, where we detail all of these new initiatives.
That's very good. Always provide resources and references so that we can follow up. Once more, as a quick question for the organizer team, do we have any questions? I would be surprised if we hadn't. I'm just a little worried that I might be missing the space where you are asking those questions. But I don't think that's the case. I can see the chat. There are no questions in the chat. So what we're going to do, with only 5 minutes left and so many people here, we're going to think of 5 words now, 5 words, everybody, to summarize the important aspect. I know this is incredibly hard, especially the further in the list you go. To make it easier for me, I will start, and my summary in 5 words is prepare people and provide funds. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list now, and that will be Skander. What are your 5 words?
Okay, that's a difficult question. I would say people, as you said in the beginning, just because we always say you can have as many technical solutions as you want, but if you don't have the experts and the skilled people to use them, then it's not going to work. So that's number 1. Number 2 is sharing. Despite the fact that it might be very difficult, we need to share more and have more trust between each other. Then the third one is cooperation. So cooperation between the EU and third countries, not just within the EU. So 2 more left.
I think you're good. You used more than 5 words already.
Yeah.
Ines.
Okay, I like this game, and my 5 words go to decision makers in the government sector. Choose right cybersecurity partnerships now.
Fantastic. Great. Dejan. I could have told you before. I know that wasn't very fair of me.
Yes. Sorry, I just had to unmuted my microphone. Improved capacity, critical infrastructure, harmonized data protection system, improved process of education, strengthened public-private partnership.
Fantastic. That's an awesome message as well. Vilma.
The most important words are said, but I can add training and continuing training, 1, and investing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's a great collection. We can continue with Maria.
Raise awareness to understand cybersecurity threats.
Couldn't have said it better. Fantastic. Last but not least, Franziska.
Okay, so I will also, the first one is directed to government level, is really make cybersecurity a priority. And then the second one, just effective cooperation.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. It's been a pleasure. It has been great. The only thing I regret is that we can't meet in person right now. I would love to sit down with you for a coffee or a drink or a tea or whatever after the panel and so many ideas. I think we could have continued for at least another hour or two. It was great fun for me. I enjoyed it very much. I think we are exactly on time for 20, which is perfect. So I thank you very much for keeping it so brief. I know this is difficult because you all have this vast experience in that space and so many things to tell us. Hopefully, like Dejan said, we can continue another time. And with this, I'm giving back to our host.
Thank you very much, Thorsten. We all share your regret about having a cup of coffee together, but we are also fond of these technologies that allowed us to follow this wonderful panel, very important discussion that you had. Okay, right now, it's time to summarize. It's time to summarize the second day, and as you know, the task to summarize the discussion of these days of this second day is up to Marina Banovic, State Secretary at the Ministry of Public Administration, Digital Society and Media of Montenegro. If you're ready, please. Okay, we have this very, very packed day, two important topics. How can we summarize all that?
Yes, actually, the day started with very nice presentation on Balkaton, on online competition for youngsters in Western Balkans to propose digital solution for our everyday's problem. And we were able to see 6 winners from this second edition of the Balkaton that were proposing solutions for smart and green cities, from sustainable entrepreneurship and for agriculture. The day started in this quite enthusiastic manner, and then we moved to quite serious topics such as infrastructure and connectivity, and later trust and security. So in the panel 5, we learned how to balance hard and soft infrastructure in order to ensure meaningful and inclusive connectivity. We can say that today connectivity is what once was water or electricity. In the Western Balkans, connectivity remains a challenge since the internet household penetration is still not at a satisfactory level. In fact, 1/4 of the population does not have internet access. Girls more than boys, people with disabilities, and ethnic and linguistic minorities are at particular risk of being left out. There is also a strong urban-rural divide. And to overcome these barriers, we need to have infrastructure in place. For example, we need to increase number of computers in schools. We need to invest more in broadband internet access in rural and remote areas. But also we need to balance between hard and soft infrastructure, so not only investment in broadband connectivity and 5G are important, but also investments in digital skills, education, legal frameworks, data protection, and environment driving innovation. Then we moved to 6th session, and our panelists discussed the intersection between 5G technologies and artificial intelligence. The common ground is that 5G and AI will have a profound and positive transformational impact on our lives and on our environment. It will drive innovation in business and society, which will consequently lead to increased economic growth. 5G technologies and AI are actually complementary. 5G is precondition for development of new AI solution, and AI ensures better penetration of 5G. Strong commitment to accelerate the implementation of 5G technology and artificial intelligence needs to be supported by all key stakeholders. Government needs to take on a leading role and create the conditions for investment by providing regulatory support and long-term plans for the application of 5G technology, AI, and Internet of Things. The seventh panel focused on the opportunities and challenges related to electronic identity, tracing apps, and certification procedures. In order for digital solutions to work, they need to be usable and accepted everywhere. Building technology is important, but building trust is even more important. Governments again play a key role in this, as they need to ensure sound legal frameworks in order to make these solutions really work, facilitate digital processes in society, and finally save money to all actors. So the key takeaway from this panel is that technology is only a part of digital transformation, and that building trust, ensuring interoperability, and developing regulatory framework are equally or even more important. Finally, the panel 8, the last panel, focused on cooperation between governments and industry in the area of cybersecurity. While digital transformation has helped improve the work of institutions, it has also brought many challenges, particularly in respect of to online security. For digital services to be used, we need to make sure they are safe. Governments and industries play a key role to this. On the one hand, governments need to put cybersecurity as priority, not only in the areas of finance, national security, defense, but also in the area of foreign policy. They need to ensure supportive policy frameworks, awareness-raising campaigns, capacity building, and constant monitoring and auditing. On the other hand, the private sector also needs to ensure how to better protect themselves, acknowledging that it takes cost and investment. Finally, it is important to involve people in the process of change.
Of course.
So this is actually what have been the conclusions of the second day, and we can say that we are at the end of the technical part of the conference. And if we summarize what's been actually discussed over these 2 days in one simple question, we can say that the summit this year tried to answer the question what we need to do in order to make digital transformation bring better life to citizens. A lot of challenges have been identified on that road, let's say, inclusion being one of them. Inclusion, so equal access to services for all social groups. After that, efficiency, whether the government or public sectors and businesses are ready to provide a quality response to increasing needs for digital services. And on the end, data protection and trust in digital solutions remain quite important and challenging in the periods to come. And on the end, rather, if you and Digi allow me, I'd use this opportunity to thank everybody who contributed that this summit runs as smoothly as we can witness. In the role of the team leader for the organization of Digital Summit 2021. I'd like to thank primarily to the team who was working on this from the Ministry of Public Administration, but also external experts, then RCC, Western Balkans, contact points, subcontracting companies and individuals that led the process really in a great manner, and to everybody else who had any kind of role in organizing of this event. Thank you for an excellent job.
Thank you very much, Marina. Thank you also for your summary of today's topics. And all this summary, these topics of today and even of yesterday, will be an important input for the discussion tomorrow, because tomorrow at 10:15 will be our new appointment. We will meet for the opening of the high-level meeting that will discuss the topics that you've mentioned in these 2 days. Thank you very much. So see you tomorrow at 10:15.